All right. Hey, everybody. This is Joey Laswell. I am the fire social worker, and this is round three of our discussion with the AI social worker. We have Dr. Badillo-Diaz.
Thanks, Joey. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on again. It's been almost 4 months since we last talked. So basically, one quarter has gone by of the year. I know you've been like since the last time we talked, you've been super busy. I've been pretty busy with a lot of projects and things too. But I just thought it would be a good time to jump back in the conversation with you, kind of get an idea of like where you think things are headed with AI and social work in general, and just kind of explain and explore different topics about AI and social work.
Yeah, no, super excited to be here. It's always nice to chat, hear about the amazing things that you're doing. I'm so excited to share what's been going on in my realm with the AI social worker, and just feel really fortunate to be here with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Same here. Okay, so we were talking a little bit prior to the stream, but we were just doing a little bit of catching up. But for the people that are listening on the podcast and watching this after the fact, can you give us a little bit of rundown what's been going on with you the last few months?
Yeah, so it's been a busy semester. As you know, I'm teaching at a couple universities, so I've been just really grateful for those opportunities and just been diving into just supporting students. But it's been really exciting to kind of bring in more of AI into the classroom. So that is something, again, as an educator, I've been really intentional about bringing in not only how can I weave it into my coursework and my assignments, but also really engaging with students on the really important topic for our MSW and even also the doctoral students that I teach to as well, of how is AI going to be impacting the landscape of our field. So that's some of the work that I've done since the last time that we spoke. At the end of August, I launched my new website, the AIsocialworker.com. I've had
Hmm.
over 3,000 views, which I'm super just pumped
Awesome.
about, and just so happy that it's free resources for social
Hmm.
workers on how to use AI. I have a whole free prompt library with over 30 prompts that can support social workers in different tasks using AI. So
Hmm.
that's been really exciting to launch. And I've also done a couple of trainings as well too. I come from the realm of school social work and education, so I've done some trainings for some state chapters of school social workers, some school districts, and it's just been really exciting to engage social workers in the field to talk about this technology. Some
Hmm.
are really excited that they've
Hmm.
kind of knew about ChatGPT, but we got into some really great discussion, in the training sessions, and how to just really take their AI practice to the next level. Or those who are just really new with AI, have never tried it before.
Hmm.
We're excited to also be able to try these new tools and talk about how they can incorporate this in their practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, in the general feedback, like, has it been mostly positive or kind of, pessimistic, cynical, nervous, or how does the feedback been from you?
Yeah, all of the above. And I think
Yeah.
initially there's, hesitation, concern, and rightfully
Mm.
so. I think as social workers, we are trained to think about things critically. We're trained to think about how this is going to impact our
Mm.
communities, our marginalized communities. What does this mean for our ethics, right? So I think these are really important concerns to have.
Mhm.
And I've had social workers kind of share concerns like, what if we over rely on these tools? Is
Mm.
it going to take parts of my job, and am I going to be able to still do the quality work? And then there's some that are like, I just have a lot of technological gaps. I'm really
Mm.
confused how this technology even works.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's kind of like this sort of novice, sort of unknown. And then there's some that are like really concerned about the ethics and the data
Mhm.
privacy. And as we, should be concerned about those things as well too. But there's
Absolutely.
been, some trainings that it's like, oh man, I'm retired. Like, I wish we had these tools when I was like in
Mhm.
the field that could make my job, so
Mhm.
much easier. And I think that's been such an exciting part of that work and those conversations to really empower and uplift, because I know burnout is so real for so many of our social workers out there. So to really
Right.
hear people walk away, this is just, I'm invigorated by, doing
Mhm.
my job. I'm so excited to try these tools, really help me in my everyday job tasks to make it easier. And that just to me is exactly why I do these trainings.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. And I think that it is, we've talked about it before, we do need to keep, you know, an eye on being
Mhm.
cautious and, and learning how to use these appropriately, but then
Mhm.
also we don't want to get left behind, so I think, having, like I said, these discussions to really put it into the ethos and say, okay, look, it's happening, it's here, it's even more advancing now since we've been chatting,
Yes.
um, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. If anything, it's just going to start accelerating more and more.
Right.
um,
Yeah, and, like, ChatGPT just had its birthday, right? It's 2 years
mhm,
old now, so, it's still in its infancy stage, but like you said, we have to adapt, we have to pivot, and this also is something I say in my trainings too, like, you have you can choose whether or not you want to use these tools, right? That is totally up to you, your sense of agency, but you can't just
mm,
not know about these tools and not know how these tools work, because they're
mm,
going to be impacting you, they're going to be impacting your clients and the communities that you're servicing.
mm,
Especially from a mental health perspective, we know, there's some not so great sides or some dark sides to this technology with deep fakes,
yeah.
misinformation. So this can certainly harm our clients. So we have to be prepared to have those conversations and supports and interventions in direct
Mm,
practice. But I think also there's a huge opportunity if we're working with clients who need support with workforce readiness and job readiness, that these tools can
mm,
help them support writing their resumes or writing cover letters, or
mhm,
if you want to use it as a tool alongside your clinical practice, that you can, there's therapeutic chatbots out there. So
mhm,
um, there's a wide range of this technology can be served for good, but we also have to know what this can be also like not for good and tech for bad also. So we have to also
right.
raising those concerns.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to even how like how social media is a platform. It's not good or bad inherently. It is
Mhm,
just a resource and a tool that you can use how you choose to.
mhm,
And then I think we've talked about before of trying to train your algorithms for positive versus negative. That you'd be surprised how quickly your algorithms can shift. And that's AI. So you gotta, once
mhm,
again, you have to go with the flow, learn how to manifest these things, and how to also, you know, take things sometimes with a grain of salt, because as
mhm,
we've probably both observed, not all AI is great outputs, but it's always learning, it's always growing. So,
mhm,
um,
mhm.
but yeah, so I'm curious from the school side of things. Have you gotten any feedback from the student side? Like, what are they thinking about AI and using it for school? Do they feel like it's cheating? Is it cheating? Like, what are some of the students saying about AI and stuff?
Yeah, no, another realistic sort of conversation we have to grapple with as educators, and also preparing our social workers in the field. So I'm getting a wide range to some where they're saying, we're not talking about this enough in our classes, and we need to be
Mhm,
talking about this more, to like, if we're going to be social work professionals in the field and this is going to be part of our work in the field, shouldn't we be talking
mhm,
about this more, getting more trainings in the classroom?
mhm,
To some students saying, like, I know students are using it and they're writing their papers with it, and I think that's wrong. Like, I don't want to be caught plagiarizing, and what does
mhm,
that sort of mean? And so I know in the conversation that I've led in the classroom with my students is, my perspective is, as a field, we have to support you with workforce readiness, right? We
mhm,
have to have these conversations about what are the different tools out there? How can they be supporting your every, day job task? How are they going to be impacting your clients? And really thinking about ethical use too. Like, as a student, what is ethical? How can you use AI to support you in your assignments?
mhm,
What are the red lines of considered plagiarism? What is permissible use? And this also now goes back to just a larger conversation, just outside the students, but really in the hands of school administration, course
mhm,
coordinators. Like, our curriculums sort of have to be overhauled now if we're going to really meaningfully introduce this technology into our curriculums. And I think it's definitely, I think students are curious. Students
mhm,
are using it. Some of them not telling their professors how they're using it, right? So they are. But I'm from
mhm,
the mindset of, let's use it.
mhm.
Let's reimagine our assignments to include this technology so we can really support with workforce readiness. And I
Yeah.
think this is a great opportunity to pivot, like you said, and be of the times and be adaptive
Mm,
this time. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's interesting because I don't really engage with too much, I guess, youth at this point.
Mhm.
Um, so I was just genuinely curious how that generation is kind of using it, perceiving it, like, because I
Mhm.
mean there is a social side of this whole AI stuff, like, people
Yes.
are forming attachments to their
Mhm,
chatbots, and
mhm,
we sadly had cases of people,
yes,
that young person,
mhm,
that got really really attached to their AI.
mhm,
So
mhm.
that is something that I didn't think we would have to be considering, like this whole concept of that. But I mean, some people might be more susceptible to forming these types of relationships with their chatbots.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought that up because again, as we think from the practitioner lens, if we're
Hmm.
social workers, we work in communities with, vulnerable youth, youth that have different diversity and neurodiverse, needs, maybe
Hmm.
these chatbots might be an access and opportunity to engage in social experiences. But then on the flip side, like you said, it could really lead to a dark place or a place of even more isolation, more
Hmm.
depression. We did hear of that case of a youth that did die by suicide because of the chatbot. I think it's also opening up more doors for, say, legislation and compliance, because
Hmm.
character AI, that chatbot, you could be as young as 13 getting access to the platform. So now we just
Wow.
start thinking about if we want to, as a society, do we want to put sort of safeguards, in place
Hmm.
to, ensure that our most vulnerable, especially children, right? That
Yeah.
should their access be and how, like
Hmm.
when the limit should be. We know
Hmm.
that the adolescent brain is certainly vulnerable and malleable, right? And we know that they're
Right.
also more impulsive, right? There's all these things that are kind of swirling. And I think there's also
Hmm.
more opportunity to do more research. And I think it's really, really, really critical. We know legislation and government compliance takes
Hmm.
time
Yeah.
and it's not moving fast enough. So I know as part of the advocacy of
Hmm.
the parents that have kind of been talking about, pushing for, um, you know, uh, increasing the age limit of, say, a platform like Character AI. And I know
Yeah.
recently Australia is, banning, social media use
Yeah.
for 16 and under.
Hmm.
So I
16.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think this is going to be, catching on as it should. And that's also part of my trainings as well to talk about other social workers about this. Because if
Hmm.
it's not coming up in your practice, it's going to be if you're working
Oh.
with youth. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's coming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Um, yeah, that's really interesting. And like we're in comparison to social media, like,
mhm,
there is that new push for, okay, maybe we need to monitor or limit or restrict it for young people and young minds. So if there's the reason that, we should do the same thing for AI, but it's also the Wild West right now. So,
mhm.
there's still so much unknowns and so much it's happening so fast that we can't even almost keep
Yeah.
up with it.
Yeah, and I think the place that I stand for it is I think legislation and having safeguards in place are important. And at
Mhm.
the same time, I think our future world for our young people is going to be a world with artificial intelligence. It will be a world with having
Mhm.
this technology to help you do your jobs and everyday life tasks. So
Yeah.
I think completely eliminating it in some capacity, I think isn't also doing it justice either to really teach our young people responsibly using AI.
Mhm.
And like you said, it's the wild west right now. This is so new that us educators aren't even fully like aware or educated on
Mhm.
these tools. And yet we're also responsible for teaching this next generation.
Yeah.
So it's gonna take time. It's gonna take, research. It's gonna take advocacy. It's gonna take a village really, to get to a place where we have the compliance, legality, the education, the tools all lined up to really have an ethical, tech for good, space
Mhm.
for our
Mhm.
society.
No, yeah, that's
Mm,
good. That's good stuff. So, you had mentioned research,
mhm.
and I wanted to highlight, or at least,
Yeah.
acknowledge that you recently got approved for some research, right? In this
Yes.
fit in this realm. So tell
I
us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so super excited. A couple of my colleagues, we have submitted for an IRB. It's now approved, and we are really interested in AI and school social work practice. As I
Mhm.
mentioned, I'm really that's my area of social work that I've been working in. It's also an area have we been talking about with youth and education in schools. I think there's just a huge need for school social work practitioners to understand this technology, and so we're really looking forward in our research to get a better understanding of how school social workers are using this in the field. What are
Mm.
the gaps? What are the training needs? We really want to investigate, what's going on in the field. So I'm really excited to be embarking on that in the new year.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so for those who don't know, what an IRB is, can you kind of give a little bit of backstory of how that process plays out for research?
Yes. So, as we know, we need to have ethics in place because, unfortunately, in human history, we've seen lots of abuses and marginalized communities being completely taken advantage of by for the sake of research and science. So, IRBs, the institutional review boards, is really a safeguard in place so that we ensure that all research is done ethically and humanely, and it is a
Mm,
process as
mhm,
it should be, right? We shouldn't
mhm.
just be, not taking, research seriously. It should be a whole
Right.
process where there's a whole committee that reviews it,
Mhm,
and you get approval through that way through the institutional review board. Sometimes it could take time, edits, and revision, but it's really just part of upholding our ethics and values in a scientific research.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because I think a lot of people underestimate what it really takes to, for one, just get approved for research and
Mhm.
then to actually go through it and do it. And then there's just the whole iterations in the process. And, like that's why, I think people should take research more seriously or
Mhm.
understand those elements of that because there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just some like 2-week project, this is like possibly years in the making.
Yes. No, and that's a great point too. And I think part of that is, the it is the ethics and the safeguarding. It
Mm,
shouldn't be an easy process. And at the
mhm,
same time, we do want it to make it accessible so people can get their research, approved and out there. But it really is uh, a process to get
mhm.
this done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a checks and balance, and that's needed for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, I guess in general, do you
Mhm.
have like a basic premise for like the abstract already kind of figured out, or are you still working on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's still definitely in process.
Mhm.
We are definitely are interested though in understanding how school social workers are using this technology in their respective roles. And
Mhm.
again, I think it's such an opportunity to then say, okay, this is what's actually happened in the field. Because I think we're also professional social workers. We want to do something, right? It's not just say, oh, we
Mm.
have this research now. It's like, let's make recommendations of what we need to do next. And I
Mhm.
would imagine a big part of that is going to be around, training, around compliance, like what kind of sort of needs we need as a profession to really
Mm.
ensure that we're using it safely and responsibly. So I'm excited. I know these things take time, right? That
Mhm.
was one of the things that I realized in my doctoral studies. I'm like, oh, it takes a long time to get published and submit an
Mhm.
article. Like this is going to take. So I know we're in the very very beginning stages now, but probably get back to me in a year. We'll probably probably have a little bit more done, but hopefully we submitted by that point to a journal. But that's been one
Mm.
of the I think one of the eye-opening experiences being in
Yeah.
more the research side, how long this process takes.
Mm.
Um,
Right.
yeah. So
But that's cool. I mean, like you're branded as the AI social worker, but
mhm,
you're actually doing the legwork. You've been at the forefront of this, I feel like,
thank you.
and you
Mhm,
know, I think you're gonna have the mantle of AI
mhm.
social worker for a while. So I think that's really cool.
Thank
And
you.
you know, just I'm just along for the ride with you. At this point, like I'm enjoying it. I'm learning. I'm also growing and developing and trying to, use it for my own good, you know.
Yeah. And I
Um
and I appreciate you, say because I wanted it's the same thing for me too. Like this journey that I started in January. So
mhm,
this has been, I started with AI prior to that. It's been about a year and a half that I've been
mm,
submersed in this AI world, but it really I launched the brand, the blog in the first week of January 2024. Now we're into, mid-December. And it's
mhm,
been such a journey. And just since I've launched, just like you said, like I'm learning alongside
mm,
of all of us in the field. New things are happening, new platforms, new tech. So even since
mhm,
last time we spoke, I've been
yeah.
also diving into more of tools that are out there. I
Mm,
came across a tool called Bastion GBT, and us as social workers are so, and rightfully so, we were really concerned about data privacy and HIPAA. And this
mhm.
is actually a HIPAA compliant tool that uses ChatGPT technology. And I was like,
Okay.
this is awesome, right? So for
Mhm,
those social workers out there that that you're interested in using these tools or you are using these tools and you really want that extra safeguard in place,
mm,
uh, Bastion GBT might be a great option for you. It's not free.
Yeah.
I do want to, acknowledge that it's not free, but it's $20 a month. There's a free trial that you could check out the tool. But again, I
Mhm.
think it just kind of adds that extra layer of HIPAA compliance, security that I think a lot of social workers, appreciate.
Mhm.
Some other tools that I've been, looking more into doing some collaborations with and research
Mhm.
on my own is Umore. That's a platform that uses AI technology to create CBT worksheets for clients and homework and
Oh,
assignments. So that's been,
that's a good I like that. I like that. I'm gonna
yeah.
look at that one for sure.
Yes, we should be having a webinar next week on Monday. So I'll
Mhm.
definitely send that along to you, Joey, and to your listeners too, if they want to check
Yeah.
out that webinar
Mhm.
next week that I'll be
Yeah.
doing. Another one is Upheal, and Upheal is another AI tool for mental health practitioners, so not just social workers, but
Mhm.
it's a tool where you can record your, therapy sessions. It will
Mm.
transcribe for you. It also has those data protections of, security and HIPAA compliance. And another cool thing about the tool also is that it analyzes your clinical sessions data, so you can get
Mm.
trends on the client's mood, different words that they've sort of shared in your session, and it's
Mm.
just like another way to start really deeply thinking about your clinical work that you're doing, and
Mhm.
create more interventions from there, or kind of notice the trends so you can offer different interventions or insights. So I just think
Mhm.
what a great way to get um, more objective sort of
Mm.
like from your sessions, because
Yeah.
humans, we make errors, we
Mhm.
have biases, but if you have a tool like AI who's recording the session and collecting some of this data, you might get interesting sort of viewpoints that maybe you not
Mm.
had considered before.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, right?
Yeah, that is so I guess my head goes to, what are the like, with these businesses, like, you got private
Mhm.
practice, you've got big
Yeah.
organizations, like,
Mhm.
how difficult is it for a company to or an organization to to try out one of these AI tools, because I feel like tools are out there now, but
Yes.
maybe businesses, organizations are kind of timid about trying it out maybe.
No, and I think you bring up a really good point. I know one of my students at the university had shared like, oh, like my agency has paid for this like tool that we have access to, but honestly, it's so far few in between that I'm hearing
Mm.
agencies purchase. And again, I think a part of it is it's new. It's not, it's a new training. Anytime new
Mhm.
technology is in a new organization, it can create a lot of
Yeah.
concern, discourse.
Mhm.
I can kind of see the hesitancy, but I always go back to your point, Joey, like we have to be adaptive with the times. And this can make your employees, feel less burnout, burden,
Mhm.
especially on the administrative, pieces.
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
I worked in outpatient mental health when I started as a social worker back in 2011. And
Mhm.
my caseload was, you know, 30, 38, 39, 40, 41 clients, right?
Wow.
I was scheduling 11 clients a day
Mm.
sometimes, in my
Mm.
my practice. We would have weekly, conversations and supervision about my productivity. Productivity was also
Mm.
something I talked at the agency because, and then on top of productivity, not only how many clients are you scheduling that you're seeing, but you have to get your notes in on time. So that's like
Yeah.
a 40-hour turnaround, 24-hour
Mhm.
turnaround. And that's like a recipe for burnout, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just too high to sustain. So what an opportunity if we could incorporate some of these tools with, client consent, because that's,
Right.
we
Yes.
can just, use it
Absolutely.
without it.
Mhm.
That this could be a real opportunity to support the caseload and workload when I know so many of my colleagues in outpatient
Mhm.
mental health, are struggling. And I think this could be one solution. I'm not saying the only solution, but
Right.
maybe a solution
Yeah.
to ease some of the burden. But I do know there
Mhm.
are clinicians in private practice who are using it because you don't have to go through the agency, right? You're your own
Yeah.
entity, but they're
Mhm.
finding a lot of positive use. I did a training, I want to say last month, for mental health clinician practitioners, and they were
Mhm.
kind of walking me through like how they had the consent conversation with their clients. And yes, there have been a few that have, some concerns, but majority
Yeah.
were really open to this process.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, if anything, it's the modern equivalent of having your sessions videotaped, so, like, for training and whatnot,
Mhm.
some people will agree to that, as long as they know that it's confidential, then it's not gonna get disseminated, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think I mean, just I'm just thinking about the amount of hours, man hours saved,
Yeah.
not having to write out all those case notes. And I think people, especially people practitioners, know that you said it also leads to burnout. It's stressful.
Mhm.
It's time sensitive, and
Mhm.
not saying that we used AI to do all that work, like you said, but
Mhm.
it's a much more efficient way of basically just analyzing data, and then you can basically add and subtract as you see fit.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know, I just feel like that's a potential game changer in the industry, because think about how much more, or how much a backlog that would clear up,
Yeah.
clinicians would be less stressed, they would also have more time, and maybe they could decompress more, they have more time to decompress. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I guess my mind is swirling with all these possibilities, but it's going to come down to, once again, people consenting to it.
Yep.
But I
Yeah.
think if you were able to, yeah, if they're able to explain it in a way that
Mhm.
they see the benefit, because I think the other thing that could be incorporated, and I think we've talked about it before, is like having the
Mm.
case notes basically shared between client and
Yeah. Yep.
practitioner,
Yep.
so that way, if you have homework, and I've been guilty of that too,
Yeah.
therapy homework is great in session, but then as soon as you leave that door, it goes to the wayside a little bit,
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be really helpful for both client and
Mhm.
practitioner.
I absolutely agree. I think again, the opportunity thing is just the willingness to be open, the willingness to pivot, and this willingness to also have these important conversations and
Mhm.
training. And the other thing, and speaking to other mental health practitioners who are using these tools, you still have to review the note. You still have to make
Yeah.
sure it says everything that you are intending that you'd like the note to write or to say. You may want to make sure it's confidential. There's no information that you want the insurance company to know. But what a time saving tool.
Mhm.
And if you're so, and I know I've been a supervisor. I know from a management point of view, it's so easy to get just so in a snowball with needing to get all these notes completed. And I just think
Mm.
what an opportunity to support even from the business sort of management side, that if
Mm.
you have a
Yeah.
tool that could really help, your employees, something to consider and think about,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you any of you private practitioners, if you use this already, I think there's quite a few tools out there that are HIPAA
Mhm.
compliant, and like you said, practitioners are using it. So, yeah, like let us know how it's working for you. Give us some feedback, and maybe we can convince other people to do the same, or maybe they'll convince them not to. But I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, at least something that we could learn from other practitioners, from other social workers who might be using it in the field.
Mhm.
Um, but and then speaking of using chat like AI, in preparation for today's session,
Yes.
I actually used ChatGPT. I grabbed all the transcripts from our previous interviews, and then I had it do a nice little recap, and basically created a whole outline for things that we could talk about. And I was just
Mhm.
like, that took all of a few seconds. Well, no, it did take a little bit of time, but I mean, just the amount of time that it saved me, and energy, mental energy, I think
Mhm.
is really one of those things that people can, I think if they can quantify that a little bit more, they
Yeah.
might be more on board with using AI for
Mhm.
their own personal needs.
Mhm.
And I think it's starting to break into
Yeah.
the the discussion, the you know I guess the culture of sorts. Like it is starting to become more mainstream. People are
Yeah.
talking more about their chat GPT and things like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's really
No,
interesting.
even the NASW, they had a call for, conference proposals. AI is one of the topics. So I know they're looking
Hmm.
for proposals out there. So I know I definitely put my proposal in, but I
Absolutely.
definitely call on other social workers in the field
Yeah.
to really, showcase this technology and really engage in, important conversations around it too.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I really do think there needs to be, if there isn't already, I mean, I guess there probably are, but like actual tech companies that
Mhm.
are, social work um involved, or have social workers in the board or in the team, and actually,
Mhm.
experienced practitioners that know, okay, no, this is how we need to incorporate this or this, and like I said, going back to
Yes.
being part of the process versus being at the mercy of all these tech companies that don't necessarily know what it is to be a social worker.
Yeah.
So if you know any of these tech billionaires want to hire us as consultants, that would be great. I would not turn that down. I have a
Yes.
very modest fee and very reasonable. So
Love
um,
that plug. We gotta put in the plug for it when we
yeah, got to
Yes.
manifest that.
Yes, yes, I love that, and I absolutely agree. I mean, just starting from tech design, I think the
Mm,
social work perspective is so needed, and I think such a valuable component because we may not have the same tech expertise as the coders, the
mhm,
engineers, the tech, the IT or the business side or the branding, but we have the ethics and the human side of understanding, and even just sort of that the whole ecological sort of system and person environment framework that we know, and also our social justice lens, our
mhm,
ethics lens. I think we bring so much of that into this discourse and conversation that these are things that these tech companies are not really thinking about, and I think that's an opportunity for our field to really be at the forefront of this work.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And in thinking about other social workers in the field that are interested or advocating for AI,
Mhm.
I did actually try to get Ernesto Bejarano,
Yes.
the
Yes.
AI social work mentor. I just
Yes.
give a shout out to him. I was kind of last minute, but I asked him to
Mhm.
jump on the stream, but he couldn't. He had obligations. But
Oh,
I definitely want to pick his brain because I know he's been doing a lot of really cool stuff. He's got the social work AI mentor. I'll
yes.
put a link.
Yes.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But yeah, I mean there are people, there are social workers that are doing really interesting
Mhm.
things in the field. And I just
Yes.
wanted to give a shout out to Ernesto. Hope to have him on the show someday. So thank
Yes.
you for that. And do you have any other colleagues that are doing anything similar or interesting in the field of AI?
Yeah, no. So, I mean, I just want to definitely also put in a plug for Ernesto's, tool. Anytime I do trainings, anytime I speak to my students, I'm always saying, hey, there's actually another social worker in the field who is doing this work, right? It's not some
Yeah.
tech company, it's one of us. And I think that's super, super exciting. And I know his tools like in a number of countries around the world. I mean, that's so exciting.
Hmm.
And I definitely want to give him a lot of props and shout outs for the incredible, work that he's doing. I know there's also a social worker at Upheal who that's like they're an integral part of the tool at Upheal, and the name's escaping, but it's going to come to me, and I will definitely email it to you after
Hmm.
to make sure. And I know we'll be both presenting separate topics, but also at a joint at a conference in the spring. So I'm like, that's super exciting that there's even just another social worker in the realm of these tech tools and bringing our perspective into the role and into the work as well too. I know
Hmm.
there's researchers out there that are really passionate and doing some great work with AI, and certainly want to uplift Dr. Melanie Sage, who's been doing research in AI, Dr. Desmond Patton, who's also been doing years before even AI and ChatGPT. Also, Johanna Creswell Bias, who also spoke at our NASW conference. She led a moderating panel on AI and social work. So, I mean, I know there's a number of social workers out there who are doing this work, and I know we're going to be getting more people into this field and into this intersection because it will
Hmm.
be growing. And I've already had even a doctoral student say like I'm really interested in AI and social work practice
Hmm.
students. So I think this is going to be more of a wave where there's going to be more of us coming down
Hmm.
that pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the last time we did talk about forming some kind of a Avengers style
Yes.
mashup or even like a collective or something. Obviously, that kind of fell to the wayside. We got busy with everything else that we're doing and working on. But I do think we're in the early stages of either creating our own tech company for
Yes.
AI social work, or
Yes.
we're in the beginning stages of, yeah, just creating our own
Yes.
community.
Yes,
So,
definitely. Definitely, because again, I think there's such power in sharing resources, sharing ideas, sharing best practices, sharing articles that are being published or blogs or things or or even just hearing how other, like I think about, school districts, how they're implementing AI for their school social workers, or other
Mhm.
agencies, like how agencies are,
Mhm.
bringing in this technology. So what a place to have like a platform to share that knowledge, be in community, share the struggle and the challenges or the concerns. I think that's a great thing to do. So it's always been on my mind. Let's manifest that for 2025. Let's do
There you
it.
go. I like it. Start off with a charge, and I mean, then again, you sounds like you're probably gonna have a big 2025 coming up. So maybe we need to do this in stages and, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, come up with a smart game plan. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely 2025, it's gonna be happening for sure.
It could be as simple as like a Slack, or it could be as simple as a Facebook group, or it could be as
Yeah.
simple as even just a Google, listserv. I think there's
Mhm.
different ways that we can engage in community. I think it's
Mhm.
just, like I said, making it happen and manifesting it to do the next steps
Mhm.
and logistics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm game.
So
I'm
yeah. All
ready.
right. Well, anyone in the fire social worker community and the AI social worker communities, if you guys are interested in something like that, then
Yeah.
let us know. I'm definitely open.
Mhm.
Email me, DM me, whatever. Shoot a comment on the stream. Yeah, and then we'll figure something out because, like I said, this is the future, and I think we're just we're just in that mindset where we're willing
Mhm.
to step in maybe a little bit more boldly than other people might. But
Yes.
at the same time, we like we've said, it's not going away, and I
Mhm.
think getting ahead of the curve just makes more
Mhm.
sense to me. That's just how I view it.
Yeah. Well,
But there also is genuinely useful things that could come from AI and probably already has. So I'm also
mhm.
trying to have that eternal optimist kind of perspective that, okay, we can use this for genuine good. So that's the other thing that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, no, I'm so with you. And I guess, I know we kind of talked about how I've been using AI since our last session, but I wanted to ask you, how are you using AI since our last session? And because you use it in
Yeah,
great ways too, right? So I know I use it in some ways, but it's always great to be in community and learning from each other.
yeah.
What are some ways that
Well,
you Yeah.
yeah. So I've had a lot of different things that I've been messing around with, but
Mm,
I did create a chat bot basically for financial counseling. So basically, my vision was
mhm,
a lot of the initial onboarding about financial counseling
mhm.
is kind of tedious. You're getting information and then you're having to compile just like any intake. So I was
Yes.
just thinking if we could, if there's a way to create a smoother onboarding process for financial counseling, um,
Mhm.
and using a chat bot to basically not just ask questions like the data, because it could do the data collection and compile it into something really, and I've tested it. It works.
Yeah.
Um, but then I'm also incorporating the financial social work principles and mindset into the
Yeah.
chatbot. So I've been feeding it financial social work and financial
Mhm.
trauma and things like that. So I've been building that, playing with that for a while. Um, I
That's
also
fun.
have been
Mm,
well, it's just one of those things where it's like I see a problem because I was having that problem with
mhm.
taking on clients and then trying to do
Yeah.
all that, and I was like, "There's got to be a better way." So I just
Yes.
messed around with ChatGPT and created my own custom GPT, and
Yes.
I'm still working on it, so
Yep.
it's not
Yeah. It's not
firmed
launched
up yet.
yet, but it's gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah,
launched. I love that. I
yeah.
think such an innovative way, and just thinking about how to really meet your consumers and clients, right?
Mm,
With being
mhm.
able to get that information, but also that you could also then use that information too, but it's also just an easier way for you to gather it also, so it's, like, time saving for you. I love
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. Really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing that I've been working on
Mhm.
off and on. And then I just recently published, I don't know, like we've talked about it before a little bit, but like almost like a collaboration with
Mhm.
ChatGPT and AI,
Mhm.
and using it to like basically create a bunch of detailed prompts,
Yep.
create a story, and
Mhm.
then also use that data to create images.
Mhm.
So I'm basically envisioning a an episodic graphic novel, like a weekly thing, or I don't know, however long it's going to take, but basically have a story, a comic book type of story. And this is purely just for fun. This is nothing, anything, crazy. Just something that, like, a creative outlet that I just had to scratch.
Yes.
Um, and it's gonna be called The Social Worker, at least for now. And it's
Yes.
basically, a premise is a social worker who basically gets superpowers and then is fighting bad guys with
Yes.
empathy and with compassion, and instead of hurting people, trying to actually cure and fix people with their superpower. So
That is
um
that's so, and again, so, so creative, right? And I think, again, I think it just kind of speaks to how much does it open up the door for creativity when you have access
mm,
to tools like these. I'm
yeah,
making an assumption. I don't know if you are like a graphic artist who could do this artwork by hand, but think
not
about now,
really.
you don't even need to. You have access
i,
to
I
AI.
know. And
Like,
yeah, it's not perfect, but, like, it the I just generated a cover page, or a graphic,
mhm,
cover art, and I was
mhm,
like, that's amazing. Like, I just would have never, I don't have that ability, but and I know people do, but I
mm,
mean, for it to just come out of, all the prompts and all the information that I fed it, and
yeah.
it was like it went from my brain to the
Mhm,
page. Um, and so, yeah, it's just been really cool, experimenting with that from a creative side.
mm,
Um, but I mean, yeah, it's still, ultimately, I use it a lot as kind of a personal assistant.
yep.
Um, brainstorming.
Mhm,
Just I've actually been going through a little bit of my Chat GPT history,
mhm,
and I realized that, yeah, I talk to my ChatGPT quite a bit,
yeah,
even more so than previously. But
mhm,
I'm also, it's because it's so integrated into, it
mhm,
has a lot of my backstory now, and, like, my,
yep.
even I had to do, and this would be an interesting prompt if you're interested, but I had it actually do, like, a year in review for me,
Oh,
and it took all the memories that it had, and then it
mhm,
compiled, like, granted, it wasn't a full year, but it was like, um kind of a month by month recap of the
yes.
projects that I started,
Mhm.
and things that I've been working on. So I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of a cool, like, a year in review kind of thing.
Yes, no, I love that. Please, like, definitely share that prompt. But I
Mhm,
will, I would love to do that, even just my own work and how I've been using ChatGPT
mhm.
for the year. Uh, and it's interesting because even not too long ago, I had a colleague of mine who's in the clinical, field, share this like really interesting prompt, and also send that to you too. How ChatGPT can analyze you on like a deeper level, and kind of say things
Mhm.
about you that you haven't necessarily shared it with it, but it can
Yeah. I
analyze you.
think I've
And
I've heard of that prompt. Yeah.
mind blowing. I was like, "Whoa, this is kinda
Yeah.
really interesting," of what
Yeah.
sort of shares about you. And, it was interesting because it kinda brought up some of my, work-life balance needs, and that,
Mhm.
I'm working a lot, all these things. I'm like, "How does it
Mhm.
know?" I'm like, "You're
Mhm.
helping
Yeah.
me do my job."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's
no,
crazy. It's
it
crazy.
is. But, it's super interesting, and like you said, as a personal assistant, I definitely, I mean, I know there isn't a work day that goes by that I'm not using chat to be professionally, but even just
Mhm.
in my personal life, a personal use,
Mhm.
just even, a few weeks ago, my siblings and I, we got together. My brother really enjoys baking, and we enjoy like cooking. So we asked ChatGPT to create like an olive oil chocolate cake recipe, and we
Oh,
tried it.
wow.
So good. Like, there's just fun things
Wow.
you could do with it too,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I know my brother just moved into a new house, so he was asking it questions on like design, or what kind of like a table size you should get to maximize the room. I mean, there's just so many things
Mhm.
that I didn't even think about how you could use it in your everyday life to
Mhm.
really, ask it questions, and it shall give you an answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually used it a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago, and
Mhm.
just kind of on a whim, but I was,
Mhm.
with reading stories with my son, and I was like, "Let's see what ChatGPT can come up with." And I just gave it a prompt. I said,
Yeah.
to create a story, a fun story for my
Mhm.
4-year-old son,
Yeah.
and that was it was a very basic prompt, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be really crazy."
Yeah.
But it actually told, like, as I was reading the story, I was like, "This is actually kind of a an interesting,
Yeah.
fun story for a kid?" I mean,
Yes.
it was just crazy. So, little things like that that I just never would have imagined
Right.
using an AI for.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, like, you can search Google, I mean, I
Yep.
think, yeah, ChatGPT is just kind of taking the place of Google in a lot of ways for more nuanced,
Yep.
um, like analysis, maybe. Like if
Yes.
instead of just like, searching for a topic, you put it in
Mhm.
your ChatGPT and it'll tell you a lot, and that's
Yeah.
been really helpful for me just to kind of learn new things,
Yep.
or just flesh out some details that, I
Yep.
didn't initially think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And I know now I believe it's I don't know if it's yet on the free version, so I should definitely, double check that too. But I know ChatGPT is now giving you the sources where this information has
Mm,
come from. So just like
yeah.
Perplexity, that will give you the link. I know on the app on my phone, you can click on where the source of information where it came from. And I'm like, this
Mhm.
is this is now, I think, I think some concerns, and I know I've gotten this question in trainings, like, where is this information coming from? Like, how do I know what it
Mhm.
knows? I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
a really good critical
Yeah.
question to ask.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it's, I know Perplexity has been doing that for some time now, where you could ask questions and Perplexity will give you exactly the sources, the website where the information is coming from. And I think
Mm,
it also pushes for transparency, but I think also for us as a consumer and
mhm.
using the information, we know where to actually get the source of that information from, so we can continue our research and
Yeah.
we can cross-check and reference. So, I think these technologies are going to just get better over
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because, I've been hearing things about, like, uh, ChatGPT could be also spreading misinformation or disinformation without it actually, quote, unquote, "knowing." It's
Mhm.
just pulling data from the internet or from its archives or whatever,
Mhm.
and since it's human generated input and
Yep.
humans are flawed, there's gonna be some flawed information in
Mhm.
ChatGPT. So, that's
Mhm.
one of those things where you just gotta take it sometimes with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
but like you're saying, they're trying to get it to where it's, like, has some validity,
Mm.
like Wikipedia. Wikipedia is, user generated, um, but they have the facts. They have, the proof and the references, so
Mhm.
that adds an air of
Yes.
validity to it.
Yep.
So I
Agree.
like I like that they're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely some, important work. And as you mentioned, this technology is going to continue to advance, continue to come out with new features. And I'm sure the next
Mhm.
time we chat, hopefully not in a few months, but I'm sure there'll be something new, right, that comes up
Yeah,
next time that
yeah,
we chat too, right?
yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
always growing and changing. And I think it kind of goes
Mm,
back to that community piece, that if we are in
mhm,
community in a learning space, that we continue to share these, with each other, be most up to date with the most, relevant things. I know I'm trying to post, as much as I can on LinkedIn. I,
mhm.
I know the term this semester sometimes got the best of me, right? Trying
Oh,
to get
yeah.
everything done.
Mhm,
But, I definitely, I really feel a sense of, importance to really share free resources, share the most up-to-date knowledge with each other, because it's only just going to better advance our work in our field.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, there's some genuine concern that people are, there are jobs being taken away right this second from
Mhm.
AI
Mhm.
and these, chatbots and things like that, but, it's kinda one of those things too where these things will change, like it's going to evolve just like when, the horse and buggy, you had the automobile come along, you had people that were like, I like my horse and buggy,
Mhm.
but then like this new thing is even better, like
Yeah.
objectively better, but there's that awkward transition period where, basically we're like some people are on board early adopters, other people are kind of in the middle, and then other people are just completely oblivious and they want to keep it that way,
Yeah.
um, and I think, that's just going to be it's going to make things more challenging for them
Mhm.
because they're just going to, it's coming, it's here. So,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things you gotta, I think, as we've said, just be more proactive about it and try to learn it,
Yeah.
not just, yeah, not just, put your head in the sand and really just try to learn it, use it for good, and see what it
Mhm.
can do. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up, the concern around the loss of jobs. I think
Mhm.
also I think the flip side of that too is I think there will also be new jobs that will be created
Mhm.
because of this technology too.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely have an impact on the workforce. And like interestingly enough, I was doing some research, I did a presentation on this a couple weeks ago at a CUNY is, there's a real gap right now. There's a gap that employers want to hire employees that have skills and understanding and skill
Mm,
set of being able to use AI, and
mhm,
yet there's a gap in the skills where our universities students are
mhm,
saying they're graduating with, I don't think I even have the skills, or we didn't learn about
mm,
this, and there's a real gap.
mhm.
And I think that really kind of speaks to the urgent need, how this is really is going to shift the workforce, but even for social work practice, right? I think
Mhm.
we're a profession where, yes, I think there's aspects of our job that can be done with AI, like administrative tasks, right? Like the recording of our
Yeah.
sessions and creating, progress notes. But can a chatbot, really replace the art and the connection that we have in therapy, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and there's been research out for a couple years now where they've
Mhm.
been, using these chatbot tools and sort of therapeutic chatbots like Wiza, and there's been a couple others, Wobot, where research has shown, again, I think their overall sort of message is it can't replace therapy. It can be
Mhm.
used in conjunction, in tandem. There's
Mhm.
opportunity for accessibility, so that if you are on a waiting list or you have no other options accessible right now, that it
Yeah.
could be like a temporary sort of support. I
Mhm.
even think, again, because of the human connection aspect, the training, the connection that comes from the power of, because we know the research shows that the most defining sort of component of the therapeutic work is not what technique I've used, it's really the
Mhm.
relationship that we have.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
think the chatbot can truly replace that, but I think
Right.
there's opportunities for to use in tandem, and that's sort of what the research is showing too, but there's still gonna be
Mm.
much more research. I know you come from the world of veterans. I think you're a former,
Mhm.
veteran yourself,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the VA is also in contract and research right now creating an AI tool called, I think it's called Battle Buddy, where they're
Mm.
still doing research on it, but it's a way to gain to again to speak to a chatbot to gain resources. They're going
Mm.
to have algorithms kind of pick up concerns on suicidality to give additional support. So I think it's just
Nice.
their way of, as you know, a historically marginalized community resources, that this might be a way to, I think about just the entry point of what a chatbot can do. Because if it can give you an
Mhm.
entry point into feeling more comfortable for asking for help, for getting services, could that also lead for you to have a connection with the social worker or other mental health
Right. Right.
practitioner to support
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. And like we've said before too,
Mm,
the way these chatbots are trained is
mm,
very important. So like you
yeah,
can, I mean, AIs and and these language learning models, depending on how well they're trained, they can be very, very accurate and very, very
mhm,
like basically like they like was it Watson, the AI that
mm.
beat Jeopardy basically,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they've been incorporating Watson from what I was following up on it a little bit, and they actually
yes.
have you been using it in the medical field
I
to
was just gonna
detect.
say, yeah,
Yeah.
it's taken the medical licensing exam and
Mhm.
passed, like, and it's done really well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
able to detect, like, cancer, like, at a higher, more effective rate than humans, and,
yep, yep,
it's just one of those things where, yes, we have to kinda, like, accept
mhm,
that there might be something wrong or whatever, but, like, if the statistics say that it has, like, a 90% success rate
mhm,
versus, like, a human has a
mhm,
60%, like, that to me is it says, "Okay, that we need to look at this," you know?
mhm,
And maybe it could be human, or AI assisted
yeah,
human, that's basically what we're doing here, where it's AI assisted, um, like decision making or
mm,
writing or creation. So
yeah,
I think, yeah, it's one of those things that it's going to be um, like, yeah, we just have to use it for good, train it for good,
yeah,
train it properly and
yeah,
ethically, like we've said before too,
mhm,
and just try to keep it reined in, and not let it, exterminate us all, as everyone wants to think that that's going to happen. But I
yeah,
think if it hasn't happened yet, I don't think it's going to happen. But
mhm,
hopefully, since we've been so nice to the artificial intelligence, that we will be saved
yeah,
in the future robot apocalypse. But
mhm,
that
mhm,
that's another story altogether, I guess.
yes,
But
yes,
well, we've got. Um, I think we've pretty much covered a good amount of stuff. Like honestly, from the ChatGPT created outline,
Mhm.
we've covered a lot,
Look at
I
that.
think, one thing that we didn't touch on a little bit, and we could talk briefly about it, but, the international, AI conversation, like, you do have international ties, right? Are you engaging with any other countries with this stuff?
Yeah, no, great, great question. So, yes, actually, our neighbor to the north, Canada.
Mhm.
So, I'm actually like sidebar, I'm also a dual citizen of Canada as well. So I did my
Nice.
undergrad uh,
Yeah.
in at the University of Western Ontario, and I'm actually currently in Ontario right now,
Oh, nice.
where my parents live. So,
Nice.
and so really, I'm super excited. But in April, I've been invited to speak on a symposium, a national symposium for Canadian social work
Mm,
in Montreal, and to really engage in this same topic, right, of
mm,
AI and social work. So I'm really excited to be in community here with my, fellow Canadians. So
mhm.
I'll be presenting in April, and so I know that's
Nice.
kind of been at least one of the lenses of the work that I've done on an international scale, but I
Mhm.
hope to do more. I know
Yeah.
just to the neighbor to the north, but
Mhm.
to still do more of that engagement with other places, as well. So maybe that may be another goal for 2025. I'm
Yeah, there you
starting to
go.
that, but maybe to kind of build more.
Mhm.
What's also really cool is looking at the data of my website. It's been really exciting to see just other countries like
Mhm.
and Ethiopia,
Mm.
India, Dubai, like the United Emirates, um,
Mhm.
just seeing other countries around the world that have been checking out my website. So I'm hoping
Yeah,
that might lead to other connections, internationally.
absolutely.
So if you are
Yeah.
internationally out there and want to connect, like please, by
Yeah.
all means, I would love to, chat at university, do a training, or just
Mm.
even, talk and network too.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot more work to be done even on an international stage.
Yeah.
I did connect with a social worker from South Africa who's done some work in
Mm.
writing,
Mhm.
on AI and social work practice in their country in South Africa too. So I know there are other countries who are engaging, in this work also. So I thought
Nice.
shout out. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's gonna be as ubiquitous as social media is now,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
other countries are gonna have to deal with it their own way. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure the UK is gonna look at it way differently than we are, and
Yeah.
that's fine, like, you make it, appropriate to whatever country and nationalities that you, uh,
Yeah.
have, so, yeah, that's really cool,
Mhm.
I'm hoping to hear some more good news about those
Yes.
connections in the future.
Yes.
Um, so let's see, what's our homework? We have to create the AI Avengers.
Yes,
Um,
and I got some ideas for my next steps. I have a small listserv
okay,
from my website, but I would love to survey the listserv and
okay.
see maybe a platform. Maybe we can maybe choose it between Slack, doing a Google like
Mm,
a Google group, or maybe doing Facebook. But if there's another option that you think of that might be a great platform, we can even ask ChatGPT what's a great
mhm.
platform.
Discord, I think Discord could be a good option. I've been using that a little bit lately.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, we'll have to brainstorm a little bit. And yeah, if you guys have
Mhm.
any feedback or suggestions for how can we create the
Yep.
AI Avengers, and if you want to be a part of it, obviously let us
Yes.
know too, because at this point, the more the merrier. The hive mind that we're going to start to build together,
Mhm.
um, is I think could be a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
And one thing that actually a lot of people might not realize is that you can actually share ChatGPT. Like you could share it with people and
Yes.
collaborate. And they also have a team feature, or yeah, team is like $25 a month. So you can collaborate. Um, I am curious about this $200 a month ChatGPT Pro.
Yes,
Um,
I
that
know.
that like obviously I can't rationalize spending that money,
I
but
same,
I
yeah.
am genuinely curious to see what is it what do you get benefits from, Um,
I know. It's piqued my curiosity. I don't know if I could financially commit to it.
right, right.
Maybe there might be an opportunity in the near future, but definitely has piqued my interest also. But
Yeah.
what can it do?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
curious.
OpenAI, if you're listening, we would definitely support
Yes,
you guys.
yes.
Be on the team, whatever
Mhm,
manifest
mhm,
that. But
mhm.
yeah, I mean, the even just the plus plan has been $20 a month.
Yep,
Honestly, like it's totally worth it to me.
same, same.
I am nervous that they're gonna eventually raise that price for the that
Mm,
tier, but you know, that's
yeah,
just one of those things. You
yeah, we will see. We'll
and
just
then what do they do with all that data? What if it goes belly up? Then where does that data go?
mm,
So that is something to think about too.
yes.
Um,
These are important, important questions, and I think it kinda goes back to when I always say you wanna think twice about what, data you're putting in and you're asking.
mhm, mhm.
And, certainly if you're gonna use it your professional work as a social worker, never to put anything identifiable,
Right.
as a but if you are again, like if you have the paid version, you can put some privacy settings on it.
Mhm, mhm.
So you're not going into your information's not going to the main, public data. Um, but it's just always something to be really mindful and think about as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if there's anything else that we missed. We got your projects. Oh, YouTube channel. Were you still working on
Oh,
that, or is that
no.
on the?
That was something else I manifested into the universe. It just did not happen this time.
Uh,
It just
that's
didn't. No, but I will be
yeah.
doing marketing interns in the spring. So maybe that
Okay.
might be, it's still something it's always on the back burner that I really like to
Mm,
get that launched.
mhm.
So we'll see. We'll see if 2025 is the
Right.
year that makes it happen.
But speaking of launches, you are going to be working on another guidebook. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I did publish and it's free on my website right now at the aisocialworker.com that you
Hmm.
can download a free 83-page guidebook for, incorporating AI into your social work practice. If you're either micro, meso, macro, I also have a nice little small guidebook for school social workers and how to use ChatGPT for school social work practice. But my vision for the guidebook 2.0 is not so much micro, meso, macro, but actually
Hmm.
taking the 30 most prevalent social work jobs and creating just sort of guides for each of those 30 most prominent
Hmm.
professions in our social work field and different prompts and different ways to use it in that retrospect. Yeah,
Yeah,
making
I
it more
love that.
tailored. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I love that idea. And
yes.
just also a plug for the field of social work. Anybody listening that might be interested or looking at if you've got a big heart and you
Mhm.
like helping people, social
Yes.
work has so many
Mhm.
flavors. So I just learned about sports. I think it's like sports social work or something like that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
yeah, and did you had or somebody was it was trending on LinkedIn, but it was like you know, let's create like the alphabet of social work, and it had all the
Ah,
different types of
yes.
social worky jobs. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, just the plug for I'm in right now. I've recently transitioned to becoming a therapist, which is
Mhm.
something that a lot of people don't know you can do as a social worker.
Yeah.
But before that, I was in the hospital system, and I'm also on the side doing financial coaching with financial
Yes.
social work. So um, yeah, there's just so many options. It's almost it can be overwhelming. Honestly, I do remember in grad school when they were
Yeah.
like, "All right, what do you want to do? What do you want to specialize in?" I was like, "I don't know." There's so many things.
Yeah. And I think that's really what I love about this field so much is it's how broad our field is, how
Mhm,
we could be in so many different areas. And I think too, as you evolve in your career, just like you shared in your story, you worked in hospitals, you've worked in this sector, you now doing financial planning, you have a business. I think there's just so many ways that you can continue to evolve your career. So I just find it's never boring.
mhm,
It's something that always continues to challenge me. It excites me. I've met so many incredible people, and I think also the
mhm,
impact that you could do from
mhm,
doing, work with direct clients, but community work, organization work. It's just been so fulfilling to be in
mhm,
this field. And using, I love working with students, and I think
mhm,
I really try to impart that wisdom. That
mhm,
you're really getting a degree that supports you being able to do social work practice in micro, meso, and macro. And what a degree to have, which
mhm.
is very unique and unlike other professions. So,
Yeah, yeah.
love the field, love social work.
That's absolutely team social work all the way.
Yes. Yes.
Um, well, let's see. I think, man, we covered
We
quite a
covered it
bit.
all. We did
Yeah.
it.
So, and we're gonna use. Obviously,
Mhm.
I've been using
Yep.
AIs for
Mm.
editing,
Yep.
and making clips and posting and all the stuff that I'd have to do manually.
Mhm.
I just couldn't do it.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and it's not always perfect. Like sometimes it'll cut,
Yeah.
at a weird or a weird spot and
Mhm.
cut off a little too early. But
Mhm.
overall, like it does a really good job for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's just like I said, it's a tool,
Mm.
and you can use it for making your life easier, or just for something for fun. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, so I'll be using some uh, some tools to kind of cut the footage, get some cool little clips going, and then
Mhm.
we'll push it out into the ether. But
Mm.
yeah, so any last minute ideas, concepts, things that you wanted to
Mm.
highlight or touch base on, or anything like that?
No, I think we, again, as always, had great conversation. I just love being in learning community with you, learning how you're using, ChatGPT and these tools. And thank you again for having a platform to share and continue to raise awareness. And, again, just education around these tools too, so we can use it ethically and responsibly. And I look forward to our next chat, which will hopefully be soon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like it's as I've been doing these podcasts and interviews, I've realized
Mhm.
that people are busy these days, and it's kind of hard to get people on the same page. Like
Yes.
just us
Mhm.
us doing this right now is actually kind of a threading the needle. Like I'm surprised we were able to pull this off.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, it's been really fun and
Mhm.
engaging, and yeah, I learn something every time, something new.
Mhm.
So yeah, just grateful to be here, and to have people like you on to have these kind of conversations.
Mhm.
And yeah, hopefully we'll do some more and collaborate, keep collaborating, keep in
Mhm.
touch. So follow along with
Yeah.
asocialworker.com, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And Fire Social Worker is for me. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's been a great conversation. Please check out asocialworker.com, and expecting to see some really cool things. Already seeing cool things, but even more cool things in 2025. So,
Thanks,
thank
Joe.
you, Dr. Badillo-Diaz. I guess that's going to be it for this
Yeah.
stream.
Yes.
Thanks for everybody who joined in and watched, and will watch later on down the road. So, thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Yes. Take care.
All right, you too.